How's it going, everyone? Welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Got my talking points here. Got some cool parts. I'm gonna dive into this. We're going down the rabbit hole on this one. So, recently, obviously, if you've seen the other videos, if you're not, let me bring you up to speed. I had a lifter failure in the LQ4 with a cam and bolt-ons in my Silverado that swapped in years ago. I kind of, looking back, I'm disappointed with what I've put together as far as power numbers, reliability, how smooth it runs, how cool it runs, you know, good oil pressure, all that. I can't complain anything about the engine. It just does not put down the power. I mean, yeah, right there. 336.48 and 342.79 torque. I'm just not really happy with that. However, I've had some people reach out to me, and just people I've talked to that somewhat in the know, they know what they're talking about, and they said that engine sat. You're probably needing to let the rings reseat. I've said it before in the past. Fine. I've put, I don't know, several hundred miles on it. We're going to try and get at least 1,000 miles. I've done some highway driving. I've done some in-town driving. I've done some rural driving. I check the catch can weekly. There's little to nothing in it. So, but the torque converter was doing some funky stuff. That's where this comes in. I actually looked at the label on it. I bought this in August of 2018. I've been dragging it around for a while. It is a Transmission Specialties 28 to 3000 converter, 10.5 inch. I weighed it. The box says 39 pounds. My scale says 39 or 37 and change. We're gonna call it 38. I scoured the internet for a stock torque converter because I don't have the one out of my truck yet to weigh. Come up with 58 pounds. So we're gonna say roughly that's gonna lose 20 pounds of reciprocating weight. This is a good lockup converter. Hopefully that weird blip we were getting on the dyno is going to go away. Ring seated a little bit more, hopefully. And we're going to give it a second chance here and see if it picks up any. I feel it's at least 10 to 15 down, you know, and that would put it about 346 to 351, and it's not earth-shattering, but I feel like it'd be more in line with what it should do. And of course the torque would be like, what, 353, 358, somewhere in there. So okay, you know, still down on torque compared to my other engine. And I'm going to get into that. So I did that camshaft comparison short by the cam cards. You do the math. The Chupacabra has 2 degrees of overlap. That's bleeding off compression, +2. My old cam and the other engine, despite being lower static compression, had -7, so it was actually helping build some compression rather than bleed it off. So that's truly where the torque difference is. Some could argue the EPS was higher lift, and that's where some of the power came from. I will link it below. I'm going to have a ton of links. It's going to be maybe even a little bit overwhelming for some people, but if you want to reference and say, where did you get these facts and numbers from, you can go and look in that description and get all that. So when Richard Holdener did a test on I think it was a 5.3, he did both Truck Norris cams. I know that's not the same cam I'm running, but one was the 553 lift, the standard version that come out, and now they have the no springs required 498 lift. Same springs, same engine. The torque was pretty much railroad tracked and, you know, was identical. And they only saw a peak increase of about 7 horsepower. So that's not really going to make or break between the two cams as far as I'm concerned. They're very close in duration specs. I would even venture to say that lobe, as far as the symmetrical shape of the lobe, is probably pretty similar. So I don't think there's a ton of power to be had there as far as that. I think more of it comes from the valve vents, and the negative overlap was helping it build compression. The other thing why I think it's down on power, I read forever people bragging, oh yeah, you know, 706, 862 heads, that's where it's at. You're going to get a point increase in compression, and it's going to just feel so fast and make all this torque and everything. I don't buy into that. I'm sorry. No. On a 6.0 or 6.2, bad idea. 4853, yes. Fine, great. I think they would be a better choice than a 799 or 243 head in most cases, not all. I'll link this as well. Eric Weingartner, Weingartner Racing, very well known. Maybe you don't know who he is, but in the circle, well known, very professional, good head porter. Always shows his results, doesn't BS anything, doesn't try and snow anyone into buying a set of heads. He'll port some, he'll sell you some, it doesn't matter to him. Any rate, so he flowed some early 862s with the service notch. And he did some 317s, one port of each. And on the intake side, everywhere, the 317 was better. Well, yeah, we kind of already knew that. But in one spot in particular, at 500 lift, where most cams were at least that or a little more, it was 40 CFM better. So on the exhaust side, not so much of a difference. At 400 lift, is what I'm looking at here. Yeah, it was 18 CFM more. So not so much on the exhaust side was it killing it, but on the intake side, it just slaughtered it. So despite, you know, yeah, the other heads give you more compression, they just offer so much more flow. So I'm thinking I gave up head flow. I haven't done I need to do the math, the dynamic compression, not so much the SCR, the static. Static, obviously, old engine was stock at 9.3. The new one should be right at 10-1 because we went from a 71 to a 61 cc head. So there's that. Moving on, I was talking about maybe just swapping cams. I just don't think that's going to get me where I want for the money and the labor spent just having that EPS calling Jeff and have him grind me a new one to match. I just don't think that's going to make me happy and have me where we're at, which brings us to this pile of parts. The converter, obviously, either combination, it's going to help. I've got something wrong with the torque converter clutch and the stock converter that's in the truck, so that's that. That's a wash either way. What's this? These are 799 heads, one of them. They're low mile, they're off a friend's truck. He went to some ported heads. I had advanced induction go through these 799 heads, stock valves, they just refaced them. They cut them to 63 cc. When he CC'd them, they checked in at 66 from what what I remember of him giving notes. Put them up here closer to the camera. Still rough cast and exhaust ports, intake ports, chambers aren't polished. They just benefit from a really good valve job. He sets all the springs and everything up to the exact same heights. It's just precision stuff. These are dual springs with titanium retainers. Were on the heads when I got them from my friend off of his truck. Phil on his website claims 10 to 20 rear wheel horsepower increase if you were to take these heads off a vehicle that you knew the power number and have him do this work. No other changes. So yes, I'm going to lose 0.2 SCR, but now comes into dynamic compression. This is the cam I've pretty much decided on. It's an older, it's not the revised version. I probably bought this 3 years ago. Summit 8720 camshaft. From what I'm hearing from a lot of people and reading online, this is just a revised GM hot cam with more lift. 600 thousandths on intake and exhaust to be exact. It is a 112 LSA plus 2 advance. You do the math. This camshaft checks in at -1.5 degrees of overlap. So instead of bleeding off, we're going to build a little. Should make up for the little bit of static loss. Also, it is slightly bigger in both valve events on the duration than the Chupacabra camshaft. So we should pick up a little there. What am I really hoping to gain from these two things over what I got now? I would like to see at least 35 rear wheel, which would put me about 370 to the tire. And hopefully I pick some torque back up. I'd like to see 45, 50 rear wheel torque. Probably not going to happen. Let's just be honest here. But I'd like to see similar torque to the horsepower. So if I can get somewhere around 365, 370 horsepower and torque, should be pretty good. I'm hoping for more than that, but I don't want to get my hopes up again, only to be let down. So I'm rambling a bit, but that's that cam, that's the heads. I'm pretty much dead set on that. But first, like I said, I'm going to change the converter. More than likely, I'm going to start tomorrow on that, which will be the 30th of December. I'm going to do it over the long holiday weekend. I work 410s Monday through Thursday in my day job. So normally I've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. I also have Monday off, being the holiday falls on Sunday. So that gives me 4 days to tear it apart, put it back together, which I'm hoping I only need about 1.5, because that's usually about all it takes me. Worst case scenario. I hope I can do it in about 6-7 hours in a day. We'll see. So, at any rate, these are kind of all the facts I've written down. I'm going to drop a bunch of links in here so that you can sift through it if you feel and draw your own conclusions. By no means am I an expert. I feel like I can make some fairly well-educated guesses from my previous experiences with some of these engines and cars, and I get some good advice from a few people in the industry. Here and there, they give me a little nugget of knowledge every once in a while. So another thing is good old Richard Holdener. Gotta love it. Provides us with a lot of great constant testing to help you draw your own conclusions and make decisions. He did a untouched 799 versus 706 test, and I'll link that. Of course, it's a short video, which is great. It gets to the point. Had a healthy camshaft, bigger than what I'm going to run. They used an LY6 short block Gen 4, which obviously is flat top pistons. I think they're 9.9-ish compression with the stock 823s on them. They did the 799s and the 706s. Like I said, 706s did 513 at 6,200 and 483 torque at 4,800. 799s did 522 horse, 481 torque. You're like, oh, well, only 2 foot-pounds of torque. Down at the bottom of the curve, 3,000 RPM, I think he said it was as much as 12 foot-pounds of torque. It was the 799 casting was down. I know I have a heavy truck, but being I have the good Trailblazer intake, 92mm throttle body, etc., etc., I think I can take advantage of the extra breathing here. So I'm going to, like I said, after I do a redo with the converter and rule that out, that's not skewing my numbers, I'm not getting slippage and losing some power that way, and maybe the ring's resealed a little bit. We'll see what it does. We'll give it a fair chance. I have a set of drag radials for the truck and some Poverty Stars, haha, and I need to have them mounted. I've had them over a year. They've been sitting. I need to do that. And once we know the transmission and converter situation squared away, I promise I will make some quarter-mile passes. We'll get a rough weight on the truck and all that. Last time I weighed it, it was 4630 something without me and about 3/8 of a tank of fuel. So add me into the mix and more fuel like I run, you're probably in the upper 4,800, almost 4,900 pound range. So it's no lightweight whatsoever. But I know it's a lot of information to digest here. Like I said, I'm going to drop a bunch of links, let you sift through the information at your own pace, if you even want to, and draw your own conclusions. So, as always, thank you for hanging in there with me, listening to me ramble. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I hate to be cliche, but I'm trying to grow the channel so that I can do more of this real world testing, not just be like, oh, well, I have a dyno sheet. I want to be able to say I have a dyno sheet and I have quarter mile times to back it up, to say either the dyno's a little happy, which the one I use is not. It's very realistic, and that you know, the numbers match up. So like I said, that's where I'm at. We're going to do the converter. We're going to find a way to sneak back to the dyno and make any adjustments we need to, see if it does better, does worse. And then probably the next long weekend I have, we're going to tear the top end off and swap heads and cam and hope for the best there. I really hope I'm not being overzealous asking. So hopefully I am not being overzealous asking for another 35-ish rear wheel horsepower and more torque out of this combination. We'll see, for better or for worse. I'm gonna show my numbers, lay it out there. Either, hey, I suck at life, or I got a mulligan and, you know, I pulled it off and it runs pretty good. But that's what we're gonna go with, and whichever way it falls, that's gonna be the final combination. I have my 2500 HD that I hope to work on by the summer next year. So like I was saying, I hope to get the 2500 HD back on the road and running. This engine that's in my truck's going to go in that with this converter. I have a whole nother engine. One of the first videos I uploaded, probably within the first 2 or 3, I showed off some parts. I'm going to still go with the fast LSX RT I have. I am going to get a 102 throttle body. I'm not going to run the 92. I am going to run those PRC ported heads. I think I am going to buy a slightly larger camshaft, similar to what I had in my old Z28 years ago. I liked it. It worked well. It wasn't too radical. I think it'll work good with 3600 converter and 410s in my truck. So, and that will be the final combination in that truck. But that's a ways off. I still have to tear that short block apart, put cam bearings in it, hone it, and get it all back together and measure everything. But eventually, that's the end game for that setup. This for now is to hold me over, keep me happy, and have a proven engine to put in that truck, because it's got 250,000 miles when I go to pull the original LQ4 out of that 03 2500. So thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate you, and stay tuned until next time.